The crystal champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of Le Bernardin, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, as William Hartley's trembling hand lost its grip. The 78-year-old billionaire sat frozen in his motorized wheelchair, staring at a 7-year-old deaf girl who had just signed something impossible, something that would either save his life or prove he was finally losing his mind. His daughter-in-law Cassandra laughed dismissively, waving her manicured hand at the small child in worn-out sneakers. "Security, remove this vagrant immediately." But William couldn't look away from the girl's desperate brown eyes as she signed again, slower this time, her tiny fingers forming words that cut through 3 years of suffering. "They are poisoning you. Stop the medicine. You will walk again." The restaurant fell silent. His son Derek stood abruptly, face flushed with anger. And in that crystalline moment, William felt something he hadn't experienced since his accident, a flicker of hope mixed with bone-deep terror. Because if this child was right, it meant the people he trusted most, the family he'd built his empire for, had been killing him slowly for years. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This story will shake you to your core. 3 years earlier, William Hartley had everything. At 75, he still ran Hartley Industries with an iron fist, a tech empire worth $4 billion that he'd built from nothing. Every morning at 5 a.m., he jogged through Central Park, his body lean and strong despite his age. He'd outlived 2 wives, raised 1 son, and planned to work until the day he dropped dead at his desk. Then came the accident. It happened on a rainy Tuesday in October. William was driving home from a board meeting when an 18-wheeler jackknifed on the FDR Drive. His Mercedes was crushed like a soda can. The doctors said it was a miracle he survived at all. But the spinal injury left him unable to walk, and the chronic pain that followed made him wish he hadn't survived. His son Derek moved into the Fifth Avenue penthouse immediately, bringing his wife Cassandra and their teenage daughter Michelle. "You need family around you, Dad," Derek had said, his voice dripping with concern that William had mistaken for love. "We'll take care of everything." And they had taken care of everything. Every meal, every medication, every doctor's appointment. Derek took over the day-to-day operations of Hartley Industries while William recovered. Cassandra hired a team of nurses and physical therapists. They were so attentive, so caring, that William felt guilty for the dark thoughts that occasionally crept into his mind. But he didn't get better, he got worse. The pain spread from his spine to his joints, his muscles, his bones. Some days it felt like his blood was on fire. The doctors ran test after test, adding more medications to his regimen. Pills for pain, pills for inflammation, pills for blood pressure, pills for sleep. By the end of the first year, William was taking 17 different medications 3 times a day. His mind began to fog. Simple calculations that he used to do in his head now took hours with a calculator. Names of longtime employees escaped him. He would start sentences and forget where they were going. The doctors called it a side effect of the pain medication, but adjusted dosages never seemed to help. Derek suggested it was time to step down from the company entirely. "You need to focus on your health, Dad. Let me handle the business. You've earned your rest." The board agreed. William signed over his voting shares to Derek in a moment of weakness when the pain was so bad he could barely think. That was 2 years ago. Since then, William had become a ghost in his own home, wheeled from room to room by nurses, fed bland meals that all tasted like cardboard, and slowly watching his empire slip through his fingers like sand. The morning of the restaurant incident started like any other badly. William woke at 11 a.m., groggy and disoriented. The morning nurse, a stern woman named Patricia, brought his pills in a small plastic cup. 17 pills, red ones, blue ones, white ones, capsules and tablets of various sizes. "Open up, Mr. Hartley," Patricia said, her voice devoid of warmth. It was the same thing she said every morning, the same mechanical tone. William swallowed them with water, grimacing at the bitter aftertaste that never quite went away. Derek appeared at noon, dressed in one of William's old Armani suits that he'd claimed from the closet. "Dad, we're having lunch at Le Bernardin today. The mayor wants to discuss the waterfront development project." He said it casually, as if William still had any real say in company decisions. The restaurant was a 40-minute drive through Manhattan traffic. William stared out the window of the modified van, watching people walk freely down the sidewalks, rushing to meetings and coffee shops and lives that still belonged to them. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt like a person instead of a burden. Le Bernardin was elegant and pristine, the kind of place where a single meal could cost more than most people made in a week. The maitre d' led them to a private corner table with a view of the city. Derek sat across from William, with Cassandra beside him in a red dress that probably cost $10,000. Their daughter Michelle was buried in her phone, barely acknowledging anyone. The mayor arrived 15 minutes late, full of apologies and fake smiles. He shook Derek's hand like they were old friends, barely glancing at William. The conversation flowed around him: development deals, tax incentives, political favors disguised as business decisions. William tried to focus, but his mind kept drifting, the fog thicker than usual today. That's when he saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, with tangled dark hair and clothes that looked like they'd been slept in. She was standing near the entrance, holding the hand of a smaller boy, 4 years old, maybe 5. The boy's face was streaked with dirt, and both children looked like they hadn't eaten in days. The maitre d' approached them quickly, his face twisted with disgust. "This is a private establishment, you cannot be here." The little girl's hands moved rapidly, signing something. William knew sign language. His first wife had been deaf, and he'd learned it to court her 50 years ago. The child was asking for food, explaining that her brother was hungry. "I don't care," the maitre d' snapped. "Leave now or I'll call the police." The little girl's eyes scanned the restaurant desperately, landing on William. For a long moment they just looked at each other. Then something changed in her expression: surprise, recognition, urgency. She pulled her little brother forward, weaving between tables with a determination that made waiters stumble backward. "Dad, what the hell?" Derek started to say. But the girl was already at their table. She looked directly at William and began signing, her small hands moving with frantic purpose. William's rusty sign language skills struggled to keep up, but he caught the essential words: danger, poison, medicine, stop, you will heal. "What is this?" Cassandra's voice was sharp as a blade. "Derek, do something." The girl signed again, more urgently: "They are poisoning you, stop the medicine, you will walk again." That's when William's hand started shaking. The champagne flute slipped from his grip and exploded on the marble floor. The entire restaurant turned to stare. "Security!" Cassandra shrieked, standing up so fast her chair tipped backward. "Remove this vagrant immediately." 2 security guards in dark suits appeared within seconds, moving toward the children. The little girl didn't run. She kept signing at William, tears streaming down her cheeks now. "Please, believe me, they want you dead. Stop the medicine." "Enough!" Derek grabbed the girl's arm roughly, making her little brother cry out. "Get these street rats out of here." But William held up his hand. His voice came out raspy from disuse but firm. "Wait." Everyone froze. "Let her finish," William said, his eyes locked on the little girl. Derek's face flushed red. "Dad, she's obviously some con artist's kid trained to." "I said let her finish." There was steel in William's voice that hadn't been there in years. The girl signed slower now, making sure he understood every word. "Your family gives you poison, every pill, every meal, I see it. You must stop, throw away the medicine. Eat only food you prepare, you will get better, you will walk, please believe me." The mayor cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should continue this meeting another time." Cassandra forced a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "Mr. Mayor, I apologize for this circus. These homeless people are always looking for handouts from wealthy—" "How do you know?" William interrupted, still looking at the girl. He signed the question as he spoke it. The little girl's bottom lip trembled. She signed back: "My mother knew, she tried to warn people, they killed her too, same poison, please, I don't want you to die like she did." The restaurant was completely silent now, even the kitchen sounds had stopped. Derek stood up, his face a mask of concern that William suddenly saw right through. "Dad, you're exhausted. This is clearly upsetting you. Let's go home so you can rest and take your evening medication." Evening medication? The words hit William like a physical blow. How many times had he heard those exact words? How many times had Derek personally brought him pills with a glass of water and a smile? "Who are you?" William signed to the girl. "My name is Rose," she signed back. "My brother is Tommy, we have no one, but I couldn't leave without warning you, I see the truth that others don't see." A security guard moved forward again, but William held up his hand. "Derek, give them money for food, $100. "Dad, you can't seriously." Now, William's tone left no room for argument. Derek reluctantly pulled out his wallet and thrust 5 $20 bills at the girl. Rose didn't take them. Instead, she signed one more time. "Money won't save you, only truth will. Stop the medicine tonight, you will see I'm right." Then she took her brother's hand and walked toward the exit with her head held high, leaving William staring after her with his mind racing faster than it had in 3 years. The mayor made his excuses and left. Michelle finally looked up from her phone, confused by the tension. Cassandra fumed in silence, and Derek sat back down, his eyes cold. "Dad, you can't possibly believe that street urchin's nonsense," Derek said carefully. But William wasn't listening. He was thinking about the past 3 years, the accident that destroyed his spine but left him alive, the family that moved in so quickly, the medications that made him worse instead of better, the fog in his mind that grew thicker with each passing month, the empire he'd built being stripped away piece by piece. And he was thinking about a 7-year-old deaf girl with desperate eyes who had risked everything to warn a stranger. That night, when Patricia brought his evening medications, William stared at the 17 pills for a long moment. The nurse stood patiently, waiting like she did every night. "Mr. Hartley, you need to take your medicine," she said. William looked up at her, really looked at her. Patricia had been his nurse for 2 years. In all that time, she'd never smiled once, never shown warmth or compassion. She administered pills with the mechanical precision of someone following orders, not someone who cared about healing. "What happens if I don't take them?" William asked. Patricia's expression didn't change. "You'll be in terrible pain, sir. Your condition will deteriorate rapidly. The doctors were very clear about the importance of your medication regimen." "Which doctors?" William pressed. "Give me their names." For the first time, Patricia hesitated. "Dr. Morrison, your primary physician, and the specialists Dr. Chen and Dr. Ramirez." "When did I last see any of them in person?" Another hesitation. "Dr. Morrison makes house calls monthly." "Does he?" William couldn't remember the last time he'd actually spoken to a doctor. All his prescriptions came through Derek. All his test results were delivered by Derek. Everything went through Derek. Patricia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly and William caught a glimpse of the message. "Make sure he takes them." "D. Derek." William's heart started pounding. "I'm not taking them tonight, I'm tired." "Mr. Hartley, I really must insist." "You're dismissed, Patricia. Leave the pills, I'll take them later." The nurse's professional mask slipped slightly, revealing something underneath: anxiety, maybe even fear. "Sir," Mr. Derek specifically instructed. "Derek doesn't make my medical decisions, I do. Now leave." Patricia set down the pill cup and hurried out, pulling out her phone before she'd even closed the door. William sat alone in his bedroom, staring at the 17 pills. Poison or medicine? Life or death? Could a 7-year-old deaf girl see something that he'd been blind to for 3 years? He wheeled himself to the bathroom and dumped all 17 pills into the toilet. They swirled in the water like colorful confetti before disappearing with a flush. Within minutes, Derek burst into the room. "Dad, Patricia says you refused your evening medication. What's going on?" William met his son's eyes that suddenly seemed less concerned and more calculating. "I'm taking a break from the pills, doctor's orders." "What doctor?" "I coordinate all your care and no one authorized." "My decision," William interrupted. "My body, my choice." Derek's jaw tightened. "You're not thinking clearly. That's exactly why we manage your healthcare. Tomorrow morning you'll take your full regimen or I'll have Patricia administer them intravenously." "You'll do no such thing." Father and son stared at each other across a suddenly vast distance. Finally, Derek smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Get some rest, Dad. We'll discuss this in the morning when you're more rational." After Derek left, William locked his bedroom door for the first time in 3 years. He lay in bed, waiting for the terrible pain that Patricia had promised, waiting for his condition to deteriorate. But as the hours passed, something unexpected happened. Nothing. No pain, no fog, just the quiet sound of his own breathing and the distant hum of the city outside his window. And somewhere in that city, a 7-year-old deaf girl named Rose was probably hungry and scared, caring for her little brother alone, having risked everything to save a stranger's life. William closed his eyes, and for the first time in 3 years he slept without nightmares. When he woke the next morning, his mind was clearer than it had been in months. And his supposedly destroyed spine, hurt less than usual. Rose had been right. The question was, what came next? William Hartley woke on his second morning without medication to find his son standing at the foot of his bed, holding a syringe filled with amber liquid. The dawnlight streaming through the penthouse windows caught the needle's sharp point, making it gleam like a tiny sword. Derek's face was a mask of concern, but his eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, told a different story entirely. "Dad, you gave us quite a scare yesterday," Derek said softly, moving closer. "Dr. Morrison says we need to get your medication levels stabilized immediately, or you could have a seizure. This injection will help." William's newly clear mind registered 3 impossible facts in rapid succession. First, Dr. Morrison hadn't been contacted because William's phone had been in his possession all night. Second, Derek had entered his locked bedroom somehow, which meant someone had a master key. Third, his son was holding that syringe like a man who knew exactly how to use it, and there was something hungry in his expression, the look of a predator who'd been interrupted mid-kill and was now desperate to finish the job. "Put it down, Derek," William said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Put it down or I start screaming and every servant in this penthouse will come running." Derek's mask cracked, revealing something ugly underneath. "You ungrateful old fool. Do you have any idea what I've sacrificed for you, what we've all sacrificed?" The nightmare was just beginning. William's hands found the wheelchair controls and he backed away from his son, positioning the bed between them. His mind was sharper than it had been in years, processing information at the speed he remembered from his prime. Every detail suddenly clicked into place with horrifying clarity. "How long," William asked, "how long have you been poisoning me?" Derek laughed, a sound without humor. "Poisoning is such an ugly word, Dad. We prefer to think of it as accelerating the inevitable. You're 78 years old. How much longer did you really think you'd live anyway? The accident, you caused it." "Not directly, but we made sure you were on that particular route at that particular time. The trucker who jackknifed, he owed some people money, people I know. Convenient, wasn't it? And when you survived, well, we just adjusted the plan. The spinal injury was a gift, really, made everything so much easier." William felt his stomach turn. "Why?" "Why?" Derek's voice rose with genuine outrage. "Because you were going to give it all away, your precious foundation, your charitable trusts. I found the new will in your study the week before the accident. You were planning to leave 90% of Hartley Industries to charity. 90% of my inheritance gone to strangers who never did anything for this family. So you decided to kill me. We decided to take what was rightfully ours. The medications were genius, really. Small doses of thallium mixed with your pain pills, just enough to keep you weak and confused. The anti-inflammatories were actually compounds that increased inflammation. Your blood pressure medication raised your blood pressure. Everything designed to keep you right on the edge, sick enough to be manageable but alive enough to sign documents when needed." William's blood ran cold. The company shares, the property transfers. All legal, all witnessed. You signed everything yourself, Dad. That's the beauty of it. Once you're gone, and you will be gone soon, there won't be a single question. Just a tragic story of an old man who never recovered from his accident. Derek moved around the bed, still holding the syringe. "Now we can do this the easy way or the hard way. This injection will put you to sleep. You'll slip into a coma and by tomorrow morning you'll be dead. The doctors will call it a massive stroke. Everyone will be very sad. Or you can fight and I'll have to get creative, which will be messier for everyone." William's hand shot out and grabbed the water pitcher from his nightstand. He threw it with all his strength. It hit Derek in the chest, soaking him and making him stumble backward. William used those precious seconds to wheel himself toward the door, his arms pumping the chair controls frantically. "Help," he screamed. "Someone help me." Derek recovered quickly, grabbing the wheelchair handles and jerking William to a stop. "The servants are all on our payroll, you idiot. Patricia, the chef, the housekeepers, everyone. Who do you think has been administering the poison all this time?" The bedroom door burst open. Cassandra rushed in, still in her silk nightgown, her face twisted with rage. "Derek, what are you doing? We agreed to do this quietly." "He knows," Derek snarled. "That damn street kid ruined everything." Cassandra's eyes widened. "Then we do it now, make it look like he had a heart attack from the stress. Call Dr. Morrison, he'll sign whatever death certificate we need." William's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might actually give out. 2 people he'd trusted, 2 people he'd loved, were calmly discussing his murder like they were planning a dinner party. "I've already called the police," William lied desperately. "I recorded everything you just said, they'll be here any minute." Derek checked his father's nightstand and found his phone still plugged into the charger. He smashed it against the wall. Liar, always so bad at lying, Dad, that's why you never belonged in business. Too honest, too soft. Cassandra pulled out her own phone. I'll call Patricia, we need enough sedative to. A crash from downstairs interrupted her. Shouting voices, the sound of something breaking, all three of them froze. Then a child's scream pierced the air. Let me go, I need to warn him. Rose. William didn't think. He yanked the wheelchair handles from Derek's grip with strength he didn't know he still possessed and rammed the chair forward, knocking Cassandra aside. He burst through the bedroom door and into the hallway, heading for the elevator. Stop him, Derek roared behind him. William jabbed the elevator button repeatedly. The doors seemed to take forever to open. He could hear Derek's footsteps pounding down the hallway. The elevator dinged. The doors slid open. William rolled inside and hit the button for the ground floor just as Derek reached him. His son's hand shot through the closing doors, trying to stop them. William grabbed a decorative umbrella from the elevator stand and jabbed at Derek's fingers. Derek yelped and pulled back. The doors closed. William slumped in his wheelchair, gasping for breath. His arms ached from the exertion. His heart felt like it might explode. But his mind was crystal clear, processing everything with razor-sharp precision. The elevator descended, 15 floors, 13. He had maybe 60 seconds before Derek took the other elevator or the stairs. 60 seconds to figure out how to stay alive. The doors opened on the ground floor, revealing chaos in the marble lobby. Patricia, the nurse, was wrestling with Rose, trying to drag the little girl toward the exit. Tommy, the 4-year-old brother, was kicking Patricia's shins and crying. The doorman was on his phone, probably calling the police. Rose saw William and her eyes went wide. She bit Patricia's hand hard enough to draw blood. The nurse screamed and let go. Rose ran toward William, signing frantically, "They're trying to kill you. I came back to help. We have to run." William made a split-second decision. He wheeled himself toward the struggling pair. "Let her go, Patricia. It's over." The nurse's face went pale. "Mr. Hartley, I can explain." "You've been poisoning me for 2 years. There's nothing to explain." He looked at the doorman. "Call the real police, not Derek's friends, the real police. Tell them there's been an attempted murder at this address." The doorman hesitated, looking confused. Derek's voice echoed from the stairwell. "Don't you dare, you're fired if you make that call." But Rose had already grabbed the doorman's phone. Her fingers flew over the screen, texting, "Help murder 5th Ave" with the address. She hit send and threw the phone to William. Patricia lunged for the little girl. Rose dodged, grabbing Tommy's hand. "Run," William signed to her. The children ran toward the front entrance. Patricia started to chase them, but William rolled his wheelchair in front of her, blocking her path. "Move," Patricia snarled, and for the first time, William saw the real person behind the nurse's mask, someone cold and cruel who'd been slowly killing him for money. Derek reached the lobby, breathing hard. Cassandra was right behind him. They saw Rose and Tommy escaping through the front door, and Derek sprinted after them. "No," William tried to follow, but his wheelchair caught on the lobby rug. He pitched forward, falling out of the chair and hitting the marble floor hard. Pain exploded through his body, real pain, not the phantom agony of poison. But something else happened too. His legs, his supposedly paralyzed legs, twitched. Not much, just a flutter of movement, but it was there. Rose had been right about everything. William tried to push himself up, but his arms gave out. He was 78 years old, weakened by years of poison, and his body had finally hit its limit. The marble floor was cold against his cheek. He watched helplessly as Derek chased the 2 children out into the pre-dawn streets of Manhattan. Cassandra stood over him, her face a mask of disgust. "You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? You just had to listen to some street rat's fairy tale." "Please," William gasped. "Those children, they're innocent, let them go." "Those children are witnesses, we can't afford witnesses." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling our people. By noon, those kids will be on a boat to nowhere and you'll be in a crematorium." Derek wanted to draw this out, but "I think it's time to cut our losses." Through the penthouse's front windows, William could see Derek catching up to Rose and Tommy on the sidewalk. The little girl was trying to sign for help to passing pedestrians, but at 6 a.m. the street was nearly empty. Tommy stumbled, and Derek grabbed him by the arm, lifting the little boy off his feet. Rose turned back, her face a mask of pure terror and fury. She launched herself at Derek, tiny fists pounding against his legs. Derek raised his hand to strike her. And then a black sedan screeched to a halt beside them. William's heart sank, more of Derek's people coming to finish the job. But the person who stepped out of the car wasn't one of Derek's hired thugs. It was a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a police badge clipped to her belt. Behind her, two uniformed officers emerged from a second vehicle. "NYPD," the woman shouted, "step away from those children." Derek froze, Tommy still dangling from his grip. Rose immediately started signing, her hands moving so fast they blurred. The detective, because she had to be a detective, pulled out her own phone and started recording. She called over her shoulder, "I need a sign language interpreter here now." Cassandra swore viciously and ran for the back elevator. Patricia was already gone, having fled through the service entrance the moment the police arrived. William lay on the marble floor, watching through the window as Derek was surrounded by officers. His son was shouting something, probably about misunderstandings and his lawyer. But Rose was still signing and the detective was still recording, and William knew that whatever the little girl was saying, it was the truth. The detective's eyes moved from her phone to the penthouse entrance. She spoke into her radio, "I need an ambulance at this location, possible poisoning victim and 2 minor children in distress." More police cars arrived. Officers flooded into the building. One of them, a young man who looked fresh out of the academy, knelt beside William. "Sir, are you injured? Can you speak?" William's voice came out as a whisper, "Get the children, keep them safe, my family, they'll try." "We've got them, sir, they're safe." The officer looked up as the detective entered the lobby, Rose and Tommy holding her hands. The little girl's face was streaked with tears, but her eyes were fierce. She knelt beside William and signed, "You believed me, thank you." William managed a weak smile, "You saved my life." The detective looked between them. "Can someone explain what's happening here? I got an anonymous text about a murder in progress, and when I arrived, I found a man assaulting children on the street." "That man is my son," William said, finding his voice. "He's been poisoning me for 3 years, so has my daughter-in-law, my nurse, and probably half my staff. They wanted my money." "Rose," he nodded to the little girl, "warned me yesterday. I stopped taking the medication last night, and today they tried to kill me with an injection." The detective's eyebrows rose. "That's quite an accusation against your own family." "I know how it sounds, but check my medical records. Check the medications I've been taking, test my blood. You'll find thallium and God knows what else. My son confessed everything to me 20 minutes ago. I wish I'd recorded it, but..." "I did," a small voice said. Tommy, the 4-year-old, held up a phone, the doorman's phone that Rose had used to text for help. The screen showed a recording app running. "Rosie taught me, push the button when bad people talk." The detective took the phone carefully, her expression shifting from skeptical to stunned as she listened. Derek's voice came through clearly, "Small doses of thallium mixed with your pain pills, everything designed to keep you right on the edge." William felt tears burning his eyes. A 4-year-old child had saved him. 2 homeless children who had nothing had risked everything to save a stranger. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. They checked William's vitals, asking rapid-fire questions about his symptoms and medication history. The detective was on her phone, calling for warrants and forensic teams. Rose stayed close to William, her small hand gripping his. She signed, "My mother died this way. I watched them poison her for months. Different pills, different lies, but the same. I couldn't save her, but I could save you." "Who killed your mother?" William signed back. Rose's face went hard. The people she worked for, she was a maid for a rich family. She saw them doing bad things. When she tried to tell the truth, they made her sick. The doctors said it was cancer, but I knew. I watched her hurt the same way you hurt. I couldn't read the pill bottles. I was too young, but I remembered the colors. And when I saw you in the restaurant, I saw the same pain in your eyes, the same fog, the same poison." "Where is she now, your mother?" "Dead. 6 months ago, social services tried to take us, but we ran away. Tommy and I live in shelters sometimes. Mostly we're on the street." Rose's hands trembled as she signed. "I'm sorry I couldn't save her, but I'm glad I could save you." William grabbed her hand, squeezing it gently. You did save her, you saved me in her memory, you gave meaning to her death. The paramedics started to lift William onto the stretcher, but he resisted. Wait, detective, what happens to these children? The detective, her badge said Detective Sarah Chen, looked at Rose and Tommy with an expression that was part sympathy, part frustration. They'll go into emergency foster care while we investigate their situation, if what they're saying is true and they've been living on the streets. No, William's voice was stronger now, fueled by rage at what these children had endured. They stay with me, I'll hire lawyers, set up a legal guardianship, whatever it takes. These children saved my life, the least I can do is give them a home. Mr. Hartley, you're in no condition to make decisions about. I'm worth $4 billion, detective. My mind is clearer than it's been in 3 years. And I'm telling you right now, if you put those children in the foster system, I will burn every bridge and call in every favor I have to get them out. They'll be in my legal custody by the end of the day, or I'll make your department's life a living hell. Am I clear? Detective Chen's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. Crystal clear, sir, but for now they need to be checked by doctors and you need emergency treatment. We'll work out the legal details once everyone is stable. The paramedics wheeled William toward the ambulance. Rose and Tommy climbed in beside him, refusing to let go of his hands. Through the ambulance windows, William watched officers leading Derek away in handcuffs. His son's face was purple with rage, screaming about lawyers and wrongful arrest. Cassandra was nowhere to be seen, neither was Patricia. They'll run, William signed to Rose. My daughter-in-law and the nurse, they'll try to escape. Rose signed back, let them run, the truth always catches running people, my mother taught me that. The ambulance doors closed and they sped toward the hospital, sirens wailing. William lay on the stretcher, 2 homeless children beside him, and felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years. Hope. The hospital was chaos. Doctors drew what felt like gallons of William's blood, running every toxicology test known to medical science. The results came back within hours, and even the veteran ER physician looked shocked. Mr. Hartley, your blood contains dangerous levels of thallium, arsenic compounds, and at least 3 different pharmaceutical cocktails that should never be combined. Honestly, I'm amazed you're still alive. Another week of this dosage and you would have been beyond saving. William looked at Rose, who sat in the corner with Tommy, both children cleaned up and eating hospital sandwiches like they were 5-star meals. I had a guardian angel, a 7-year-old guardian angel. The doctor followed his gaze. Those are the children who warned you. Yes, and I want them examined too, make sure they're healthy, full workup, everything they need. Already ordered, Child Services is sending a representative. No Child Services, contact my lawyer. William stopped, realizing his lawyer was probably in Derek's pocket too. Actually, call Judge Patricia Morrison, she's an old friend, retired now. Tell her William Hartley needs help and it's urgent, she'll know what to do. Over the next 6 hours, William's hospital room became command central for unraveling 3 years of conspiracy. Judge Morrison arrived within the hour, bringing 2 lawyers from a firm Derek didn't control. Detective Chen set up a temporary office in the waiting room, coordinating with forensic accountants and medical experts. The evidence was overwhelming. William's medications had been systematically swapped with poison, administered by Patricia under Derek's direction. Bank records showed large payments from Derek to Patricia, to the doorman, to the chef, to Dr. Morrison, the real Dr. Morrison, who turned out to be a physician Derek had paid to falsify medical records and sign prescriptions without ever examining William. Cassandra's paper trail was sloppier. She'd made the mistake of using her personal credit card to purchase books about untraceable poisons and making suspicious searches on her home computer. Digital forensics pulled up months of online research about thallium poisoning, estate law, and how to forge medical documents. But the most damning evidence came from Tommy's recording. Derek's voice, clear as a bell, confessing to orchestrating the accident, administering poison, and planning to murder his father. No lawyer on earth could explain that away. By late afternoon, the manhunt for Cassandra and Patricia had expanded to airports and train stations. Derek sat in a holding cell, his expensive suit rumpled, his future destroyed. Their daughter Michelle, the teenage girl who'd been so absorbed in her phone, claimed she'd known nothing about the murder plot. Investigation would determine if that was true. William's blood was being filtered and cleansed, the toxins slowly purged from his system. Already he could feel the difference. The fog was lifting, the pain was fading, and his legs, his supposedly destroyed legs, were responding to nerve signals in ways they hadn't since the accident. The spinal injury was real, the neurologist explained, studying William's scans, but it wasn't as severe as you were told. With proper physical therapy, you might have walked again within a year. The medications you were taking were actually preventing healing, keeping your nerves inflamed and your muscles atrophied. Now that we've stopped the poison and started proper treatment, Mr. Hartley, I think you're going to make a remarkable recovery. William started to cry. 3 years stolen from him by greed and betrayal. 3 years of pain and fog and slowly dying while his own family smiled and pretended to care. Rose appeared beside his bed. She'd been given new clothes by one of the nurses, jeans and a t-shirt that actually fit, sneakers without holes. Tommy was with her, his face clean, revealing a sprinkle of freckles across his nose. "Why are you sad?" Rose signed. "You're going to live, you're going to walk, why sad?" "Because I was blind," William signed back. "I trusted people who wanted me dead. I ignored all the warning signs if you hadn't come along." "But I did come along," Rose interrupted. "Sometimes people are put in places to help. My mother used to say that. She said even when bad things happen, good people appear to balance it out. Maybe Tommy and I were supposed to be in that restaurant. Maybe you were supposed to believe me. Maybe it all happened exactly the way it was meant to." William had never believed in fate or destiny. He'd built his empire on hard work and sharp thinking, not mystical nonsense. But looking at this 7-year-old deaf girl who'd saved his life for no reason except that it was right, he wondered if maybe there was something larger at work after all. "Your mother," William signed. "Tell me about her." Rose's eyes filled with tears, but she signed. "Her name was Maria Gonzalez. She was the best person I ever knew. She worked 3 jobs to take care of us after our father died. She was kind to everyone, even people who were mean to her. When she got sick, she kept working until she couldn't stand up anymore. The doctors said cancer, but I knew it was poison because I saw the way her bosses looked at her, like she was a problem they needed to solve. She knew something bad about them, something that could send them to jail. So they made her sick, and nobody believed her when she tried to tell the truth." "What did she know?" "I don't know, she never told me. She said I was too young and knowing would put Tommy and me in danger. But the night before she died, she made me promise something. She said if I ever saw someone else being poisoned the same way, I had to warn them. I had to be brave even if people didn't believe me. So when I saw you in that restaurant, looking the same way she looked, I knew I had to try." William felt a cold rage settling over him. What family did she work for? Rose's hands hesitated, then slowly she signed, "The Castellanos, Anthony Castellano and his wife Victoria." William's breath caught. The Castellanos. He knew them, wealthy real estate developers with connections throughout Manhattan. Anthony Castellano sat on the board of 3 major corporations. Victoria Castellano chaired charity galas and smiled for society page photographers. And apparently, they'd murdered their maid for knowing too much. "Detective Chen needs to hear this," William said out loud. He pressed his call button, and within minutes the detective was in his room, listening as Rose signed her story and a hospital interpreter translated. By the time Rose finished, Detective Chen's face was grim. "Mr. Hartley, you need to understand something. The Castellanos are connected. I mean, connected at levels that make it very difficult to investigate them. If I start poking into a suspicious death of their employee from 6 months ago, I'm going to face serious political pressure to back off." "Then don't investigate alone," William said. "I'm a billionaire detective. I have connections too, and now I have a personal reason to care about justice for Maria Gonzalez. These children saved my life. The least I can do is help clear their mother's name and bring her killers to justice." Detective Chen studied him for a long moment. "This isn't going to be quick or easy. It could take months, maybe years." "I have time now," William replied. 3 years were stolen from me. I plan to spend the next 3 and however many more I have left making sure the people who hurt these children pay for what they did." Rose's eyes went wide. "You would do that for us? For you, for your mother, and for every other person who's been victimized by people who think money puts them above the law." William reached out and took Rose's small hand in his. "Your mother made you promise to warn people. I'm making you a promise too. I will find out what she knew. I will prove how she died. And I will make sure the Castellanos face justice, no matter how long it takes or what it costs me." Tommy tugged on his sister's sleeve and signed something quickly. Rose smiled for the first time since William had met her, a real smile that lit up her whole face. "What did he say?" William asked. "He said you're like a superhero grandfather, and he wants to know if we can really live with you and have our own beds." William felt his eyes burning again. "Yes, your own beds, your own rooms, whatever you want. You'll never be hungry or scared or alone again. That's another promise." Rose threw her arms around William's neck, sobbing. Tommy climbed onto the hospital bed, curling up beside William like he was afraid the old man might disappear if he let go. Judge Morrison, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, cleared her throat. "Mr. Hartley, I can fast-track emergency guardianship given the circumstances. It'll take a few days to make it permanent, but I can have temporary custody papers drawn up by tonight. These children can stay with you under supervised care while we work through the legal process." "Do it," William said. "Whatever needs to happen, make it happen. These kids have been through enough." As the day faded into evening, William's hospital room filled with people. Lawyers finalizing guardianship papers, social workers assessing the children's needs, doctors planning William's recovery treatment, and Detective Chen coordinating the expanding investigation into both the Hartley family conspiracy and Maria Gonzalez's suspicious death. Through it all, Rose and Tommy stayed close to William, two small anchors keeping him grounded in reality. Every time he looked at them, he saw not just homeless children he was rescuing, but two brave souls who'd rescued him first. The evening news broke the story: billionaire William Hartley allegedly poisoned by own son in murder plot. Within hours, it was national news. By the next morning, it would be international. Derek's face was plastered across every channel, along with speculation about Cassandra's whereabouts and Patricia's arrest in a bus station outside Philadelphia. William turned off the television. He didn't need to watch the circus. He knew the truth, and soon everyone else would too. "What happens now?" Rose signed, her head resting against William's shoulder. "Now," William signed back, "we heal, all three of us, and then we make sure this never happens to anyone else." Tommy was already asleep, his small body curled against William's side. The child's face was peaceful in sleep, free from the fear and hunger that had marked it before. Rose yawned widely. "I'm scared to sleep. Every time I sleep, bad things happen. What if they come back? What if they hurt you?" "They won't," William promised. "There are police outside this room. Judge Morrison is down the hall. Detective Chen is working on the case. And he paused, realizing the truth of what he was about to say. "I am not the weak man I was yesterday. The poison made me helpless. Without it, I remember who I am. I'm William Hartley. I built an empire from nothing. I survived corporate warfare, hostile takeovers, and economic crashes. My own son thought he could kill me, but he failed. And anyone else who tries will fail too. You're safe now, Rose. Both of you are safe." Rose's eyes drifted closed. "My mother would have liked you," she signed sleepily. "She always said there were still good people in the world. I didn't believe her after she died, but I believe her now." Within minutes, both children were asleep, bracketing William like small guardian angels. The old man lay awake, his mind racing with plans. He would recover. He would reclaim his company. He would raise these children as his own. And he would hunt down every person who'd played a role in Maria Gonzalez's death, no matter where the investigation led or whose powerful friends got in the way. 3 days ago, he'd been a dying man with nothing left to live for. Now he had 2 children who needed him, and a mission that gave his life new purpose. The poison hadn't killed him. Instead, it had revealed the truth about the people around him and brought him the family he'd never known he needed. As William finally drifted off to sleep, his last thought was of a woman named Maria Gonzalez, who'd raised her daughter to be brave enough to warn strangers, even at great personal risk. "Thank you," William thought. "I promise I'll take care of them, and I promise I'll make sure your death meant something." In the morning, the real work would begin. 6 months later, William Hartley stood without assistance for the first time in 3.5 years, his legs trembling but strong, his spine straight, his mind sharp as a diamond blade. The physical therapist beamed with pride, but William barely noticed her. His eyes were locked on Rose and Tommy, who sat on the gym mat clapping wildly, their faces glowing with joy. Rose signed frantically. "You're doing it, you're really walking." William took one step forward, then another. His muscles screamed in protest. Years of atrophy didn't disappear overnight, but the pain was real and honest, not the phantom agony of poison. By the 3rd step, tears were streaming down his face. By the 5th step, he reached the children and collapsed to his knees, pulling them both into a fierce embrace. "I told you that you'd walk again," Rose signed against his chest. I told you." But what Rose didn't know, what no one knew yet except William and Detective Chen, was that today was about more than walking. Today was the day they'd finally gathered enough evidence to destroy the Castellanos. And today was the day Derek's trial began, with cameras from every major news network positioned outside the courthouse, waiting to broadcast the fall of a family that had seemed untouchable. The reckoning had arrived. If you're watching from your country, drop your flag in the comments, and smash that subscribe button because this conclusion will leave you speechless. The courtroom was packed with journalists, legal observers, and curious spectators who'd followed the Hartley poisoning case since it exploded across headlines 6 months ago. William sat in the front row, flanked by Rose and Tommy, both children dressed in clothes that actually fit, their faces healthy and bright. They held his hands tightly as Derek was led in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, his wrists shackled, his face gaunt and hollow. Their eyes met across the courtroom. Derek's gaze was filled with hatred so pure it was almost tangible. William stared back without flinching. He'd spent months preparing for this moment, working with prosecutors to build an airtight case, refusing every plea bargain offer that would have let his son avoid the harshest penalties. Some people had called him cruel. A father should have mercy on his son, they said. Family is family, they insisted. But William had learned a hard truth. Biology doesn't make family, love makes family, loyalty makes family. And Derek had destroyed any claim to William's mercy the moment he'd decided his father's life was worth less than his inheritance. The judge entered, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Blackwell, and the bailiff called for order. The prosecution's opening statement was devastating. They laid out the entire conspiracy in meticulous detail: the orchestrated accident, the systematic poisoning, the falsified medical records, the payments to corrupt staff members, Derek's own recorded confession, and the final attempted murder with a syringe full of concentrated poison. The defense lawyer tried to argue temporary insanity, suggesting that Derek had been under tremendous stress managing his father's company and care. But the prosecution produced email evidence showing that Derek had been planning the murder for over a year before the accident even occurred, shopping for poisons online, researching symptoms, and discussing the plan with Cassandra in messages they'd thought were encrypted. Then came the testimony phase. Patricia, the nurse, was brought in wearing handcuffs, having accepted a plea deal in exchange for testifying against Derek. She described in clinical detail how she'd administered poison disguised as medication for 2 full years, how Derek had personally supervised the dosages, and how they'd celebrated small victories every time William's health declined. "Did you ever feel remorse?" the prosecutor asked. Patricia shrugged. "He was old, he was going to die anyway. Mr. Derek promised me $2 million once his father passed. That's more money than I could make in 10 lifetimes as a nurse. It seemed worth it." The courtroom erupted in gasps and angry murmurs. Judge Blackwell gavelled for silence. William felt Rose squeeze his hand harder, her small body shaking with anger at the woman who'd pretended to care while slowly killing him. Dr. Morrison, the fake doctor, testified next. He'd also taken a plea deal. He explained how Derek had paid him $50,000 per month to sign prescriptions without examining William, to falsify test results that showed worsening conditions, and to recommend increased medication dosages that were actually increased poison. "Did you know the medications would kill Mr. Hartley?" the prosecutor asked. "Eventually, yes, but Mr. Derek wanted it to look natural, like complications from the accident. I was told it would take 2 to 3 years for the cumulative effects to cause fatal organ failure. We were right on schedule when the plan fell apart." The defense tried to cross-examine to create reasonable doubt, but the evidence was overwhelming. Phone records, bank transfers, emails, text messages, the doorman's testimony about suspicious visitors, the chef's admission that he'd been adding compounds to William's food, every piece fit together perfectly. Then came William's turn to testify. He walked to the witness stand under his own power, using only a cane for support. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Many of these people had seen footage of him wheelchair-bound and barely coherent just 6 months ago. His recovery was nothing short of miraculous, a living testament to what the poison had stolen from him. William took the oath and sat down. The prosecutor approached with a gentle expression. "Mr. Hartley, please tell the court about your relationship with your son before the accident." William took a deep breath. "Derek was my only child. I loved him more than anything in this world. I built my company thinking I'd pass it on to him someday. I was proud of him, even when he struggled, even when he made mistakes. I thought we were close. I thought he loved me too." When did you first suspect he might be involved in harming you? Not until Rose Gonzalez warned me. Before that, I trusted him completely. He was my son. It never occurred to me that he could be capable of something so evil. Even after Rose's warning, I didn't want to believe it. But when I stopped taking the medication and started to recover, when I saw how desperate he became to get me back on the pills, I knew the truth. The prosecutor pulled out a tablet and played Tommy's recording, Derek's voice echoing through the silent courtroom, confessing to orchestrating the accident, administering poison, planning his father's death. Several jurors visibly recoiled. How did it feel, the prosecutor asked quietly, to hear your son admit he'd been trying to kill you? William's voice cracked, like dying would have been easier. Physical pain ends. Betrayal, especially betrayal by someone you love, that pain never fully heals. Derek didn't just try to kill my body. He killed the father-son relationship I thought we had. He killed my ability to trust easily. He killed the man I was before I knew what he was capable of. The defense attorney's cross-examination was brief and ineffective. There was no way to discredit a victim's testimony when the evidence so clearly supported every word. Then Rose was called to testify. The 7-year-old walked to the witness stand with her head high, accompanied by a sign language interpreter. She looked tiny in the large wooden chair, but there was nothing timid about her expression. The prosecutor smiled at her gently. Rose, can you tell the court why you warned Mr. Hartley about the poison? Rose's hands moved and the interpreter translated. Because my mother died the same way. I watched her get sicker and sicker, just like Mr. Hartley, the same pain in her eyes, the same fog in her mind, the same pills making her worse instead of better. I couldn't save my mother, but I could try to save him. Were you afraid when you approached Mr. Hartley in the restaurant? Yes, very afraid. People usually ignore deaf children. They think we're stupid or helpless, but I had to try. My mother told me to always help people when I can, even if it's scary. So I signed the warning and Mr. Hartley listened. He was the first adult who really listened to me since my mother died. Several jurors were wiping their eyes. Even Judge Blackwell looked moved. Rose, the prosecutor continued, do you see the person in this courtroom who tried to hurt you when you were warning Mr. Hartley? Rose pointed directly at Derek. He grabbed my brother Tommy and tried to take us away. He wanted us to disappear so we couldn't tell the truth, but we ran and Detective Chen saved us. The defense attorney declined to cross-examine a child witness. Probably a smart choice. Attacking a 7-year-old deaf girl who'd saved an old man's life wouldn't win any sympathy from the jury. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was so overwhelming that the defense barely mounted a case. Derek never took the stand. His lawyers knew that anything he said would only make things worse. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, fraud, and a dozen other charges. Derek's face went white as the verdict was read. He looked at William one last time, and whatever he saw in his father's eyes made him flinch and look away. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Blackwell showed no mercy. Mr. Derek Hartley, she said, her voice cold with contempt, you orchestrated a scheme to murder your own father for financial gain. You spent years slowly poisoning him, watching him suffer, pretending to care while actively destroying his health and his mind. You manipulated medical professionals, corrupted staff members, and when your plan was threatened by 2 homeless children, you attempted to harm them as well. This court has seen many evil acts, but the calculated cruelty of a son murdering his father ranks among the worst. You are sentenced to 40 years in prison without possibility of parole. Derek was led away screaming about appeals and injustice. William felt nothing, not satisfaction, not sadness, just a hollow emptiness where his love for his son used to be. But the Hartley case was only half the story. While Derek's trial had dominated headlines, Detective Chen and William had been working quietly on something bigger, the investigation into Maria Gonzalez's death and the Castellanos' crimes. It had taken 6 months of careful detective work, but they'd finally found what Maria had known, the secret that had gotten her killed. Anthony Castellano wasn't just a real estate developer. He was a money launderer for 3 different criminal organizations, using his property deals to clean millions in illegal profits. Maria had stumbled onto evidence while cleaning his home office, documents he'd carelessly left out, bank records showing suspicious transfers, communications with known criminals. She'd photographed everything with her phone before he realized what she'd seen, and that's when they decided she had to go. But poisoning her slowly had given Maria time to hide the evidence. She'd uploaded everything to a cloud storage account with a password only she knew, planning to turn it over to authorities once she'd secured protection for her children. She died before she could reveal where the evidence was hidden. It had taken William's team of computer forensics experts 3 months to crack into Maria's old email accounts and social media profiles, following digital breadcrumbs she'd left behind. They'd finally found the cloud storage link hidden in a draft email titled "For My Children When They're Older." The evidence was devastating. 15 years of financial crimes, connections to organized crime, proof of bribes paid to building inspectors and city officials, and most damning, emails discussing how to handle the maid who'd seen too much. The FBI had raided the Castellano mansion at dawn 3 days ago. Anthony Castellano was arrested while still in his silk pajamas. His wife Victoria tried to flee and was caught at JFK Airport with a suitcase full of cash and fake passports. Their assets were frozen, their properties were seized, their society friends vanished overnight. And today, the same day Derek was sentenced, the Castellanos were being arraigned on federal racketeering and murder charges. William sat in a different courthouse, Rose and Tommy beside him, watching as the people who'd killed their mother were led into the courtroom in orange jumpsuits. Victoria Castellano, who'd hosted charity galas in designer gowns, now looked haggard and small. Anthony Castellano, who'd commanded rooms full of powerful people, now shuffled in shackles. Rose watched them with eyes that seemed too old for a 7-year-old face. When they were both formally charged with the murder of Maria Gonzalez, she signed, "My mother can rest now." William pulled her close. "Your mother can be proud. You finished what she started. You exposed the truth." The arraignment was quick. Both Castellanos pleaded not guilty, but their lawyers looked defeated before the proceedings even began. The evidence against them was overwhelming, collected over 15 years by Maria's careful documentation and 6 months of FBI investigation. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed William, cameras flashed, microphones were thrust in his face. Everyone wanted a statement. William cleared his throat and spoke clearly. "6 months ago, I was dying in a wheelchair, poisoned by people I trusted with no hope of recovery. 2 homeless children risked everything to save my life because it was the right thing to do. Today, those children, Rose and Tommy Gonzalez, are my legally adopted son and daughter. Today, their mother's killers face justice. Today, my own son begins serving 40 years in prison for attempted murder. This is not a happy ending. Too many people were hurt, too much was lost, but it is a just ending." "Mr. Hartley," a reporter called out, "what message do you have for other families dealing with elder abuse?" "Listen to the warnings," William said firmly. "Even when they come from unexpected sources, even when you don't want to believe them. I ignored warning signs for 3 years because I couldn't imagine my family would hurt me. If I'd been more aware, more willing to question, I might have caught it sooner. Pay attention to sudden changes in health, medications that make conditions worse instead of better, and family members who seem too eager to control your care. And if you're someone witnessing elder abuse, speak up, even if it's scary. You might save a life." "What about Cassandra Hartley? She's still at large." William's expression hardened. "Cassandra made the mistake of running with money I could track. My forensic accountants have frozen every account she tries to access. She's living on cash that will eventually run out. When it does, she'll make a mistake and Detective Chen will be waiting. There's nowhere she can hide forever." "And your company, Hartley Industries?" "I've resumed control as CEO. My son did considerable damage in 3 years, making risky deals and siphoning off funds for personal use. It'll take time to rebuild, but Hartley Industries will survive. And going forward, 50% of annual profits will go to a foundation I'm establishing in Maria Gonzalez's name. The foundation will help homeless children, support victims of elder abuse, and fund programs for deaf education." Rose tugged on his sleeve. She signed, "Can we go home now? Tommy is tired." William looked down at his daughter, legally and in every way that mattered, and felt something he hadn't experienced in years: complete, uncomplicated love. "Yes," he signed back, "let's go home." Home was no longer the Fifth Avenue penthouse where he'd been poisoned and betrayed. William had sold that property immediately, unable to stomach the memories. Instead, he'd purchased a brownstone in Brooklyn with a small backyard where Tommy could play and enough space for Rose to have a room filled with the books she loved. The house was warm and bright, furnished not with expensive antiques but with comfortable furniture that children could actually use. The kitchen had a table where they ate breakfast together every morning. The living room had a television where they watched cartoons. It was a home, not a showpiece. That evening, after the trials and the reporters and the chaos of the day, William sat in the backyard watching Rose teach Tommy the signs for different animals. The little boy was learning fast, his hands forming shapes with increasing confidence. Rose was patient with him, correcting his form with gentle guidance just like their mother must have taught her. Detective Chen stopped by around 7 p.m. looking exhausted but satisfied. "I thought you'd want to know we picked up Patricia at the Canadian border. She'll be extradited back tomorrow to serve her sentence." "And Cassandra?" "Still searching, but we got a lead from her credit card company. She tried to use a card in Mexico City 3 days ago. The transaction was declined because of the freeze on her accounts. We're coordinating with Mexican authorities now. She won't stay free much longer." William nodded. He should have felt vindicated, but mostly he just felt tired. "Thank you, detective, for everything. Without you, none of this would have been possible." Chen smiled. "Thank you for not giving up on Maria Gonzalez's case. A lot of wealthy people would have focused on their own situation and let a dead maid's murder stay unsolved. You didn't have to push for justice for someone you never met." "I did it for them," William said, gesturing toward Rose and Tommy. "They deserve to know their mother didn't die for nothing. They deserve to see her vindicated." After Detective Chen left, William made dinner, something he'd learned to do in the past 6 months. Nothing fancy, just pasta and vegetables, but he made it himself. No servants, no chefs, no one he had to wonder about trusting. They ate together at the kitchen table. Tommy chattered about his day at his new school where he was learning to read and making friends. Rose talked about her sign language class where she was helping teach hearing students to communicate with deaf peers. After dinner, William read them both a bedtime story. Tommy fell asleep halfway through, curled up with a stuffed elephant William had bought him. Rose stayed awake, her eyes tracking the pictures in the book. When William finished, she signed, "Are you happy now?" It was such a simple question, but it made William pause. Was he happy? His son was in prison. His daughter-in-law was a fugitive. Half his staff had betrayed him. He'd lost 3 years of his life to poison and pain. His body still ached from the physical therapy required to rebuild his strength. But he was alive, he was walking, his mind was clear, and he had 2 incredible children who loved him not for his money or his power but simply because he'd chosen to believe them when no one else would. "Yes," William signed back, "I'm happy, are you?" Rose thought about it seriously. "I miss my mother every day. Sometimes I'm angry that she died. Sometimes I'm sad that Tommy barely remembers her, but I think she would be proud of us. We stopped bad people, we saved you, we found a new family. She always said family isn't always blood, it's the people who love you and take care of you, so yes, I'm happy too." She hugged him goodnight and went to her room, leaving William sitting alone in the quiet house. He thought about Derek, who'd had every advantage and had thrown it all away for greed. He thought about Maria Gonzalez, who'd had nothing but had raised children who understood the value of courage and truth. He thought about Rose, 7 years old and wiser than most adults he'd known. Life was strange. 6 months ago, he'd been a dying billionaire with a son who wanted him dead. Now he was a recovering billionaire with a daughter who'd saved his life and a son who brightened every room he entered. Not the family he'd expected, but the family he needed. 3 months later, Cassandra was arrested in Buenos Aires, Argentina, trying to board a cruise ship under a fake name. She was extradited to the United States and sentenced to 35 years in prison for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and fleeing prosecution. Michelle, Derek's daughter, testified that she'd known nothing about the murder plot. Investigations supported her claim she genuinely believed her father was helping her grandfather, not killing him. She was placed with her maternal grandparents and entered therapy to process the trauma of learning her parents were attempted murderers. Dr. Morrison and Patricia both served their plea-bargained sentences, 15 years and 12 years respectively. The various staff members who'd been complicit in smaller ways, the doorman who'd looked the other way, the chef who'd added compounds to food, the housekeepers who'd accepted payment to stay silent, all received sentences ranging from probation to 5 years in prison. Hartley Industries recovered under William's leadership. He restructured the company, installing independent board members and implementing strict oversight policies to prevent the kind of corruption Derek had engaged in. The company's stock price recovered, and within a year, Hartley Industries was stronger than it had been before the poisoning began. The Maria Gonzalez Foundation opened with a $100 million endowment. In its first year, it helped 2,000 homeless children find safe housing, funded deaf education programs in 15 cities, and supported elder abuse prevention initiatives that trained healthcare workers to recognize warning signs of poisoning and neglect. Rose and Tommy thrived. Rose became a spokesperson for deaf children's rights, traveling to schools to teach sign language and share her story. Tommy, now 5 years old, was reading at a second-grade level and had been tested as gifted. Both children were in therapy to process their trauma, but they were healing. William's health continued to improve. He walked without assistance now, his spine fully healed from the damage that had been preventable all along. His mind was sharp as ever. At 79 years old, he felt younger and more alive than he had at 75 before the poison had started stealing his life. On the anniversary of the day Rose had warned him in the restaurant, William organized a special ceremony. He invited Detective Chen, Judge Morrison, the lawyers who'd helped secure his guardianship of the children, and a small group of friends who'd supported him through the ordeal. In his backyard, surrounded by people he trusted, William unveiled a statue he'd commissioned. A bronze sculpture of a woman holding 2 children with a plaque that read, "Maria Elena Gonzalez, mother, hero, truth seeker. Her courage lives on in her children, who saved a stranger's life by speaking truth when no one else would listen." Rose cried when she saw it. Tommy traced his fingers over the bronze figure of their mother, too young to fully understand death but old enough to know this was important. "She's beautiful," Rose signed. "Thank you for remembering her." "I'll never forget her," William signed back. "She raised 2 of the bravest people I've ever known. That's a legacy that will outlive all of us." That night, after everyone had gone home and the children were asleep, William sat in his office and drafted a new will. He left the bulk of his fortune to Rose and Tommy to be held in trust until they were adults. He left generous donations to organizations fighting elder abuse and supporting deaf children. He left nothing to Derek or Cassandra. They'd already taken enough. But more importantly, he wrote letters to his children to be opened when they turned 18. In the letters, he told them about their mother's courage, about how Rose had saved his life, about how Tommy's innocent recording had brought down a criminal empire. He told them he loved them. He told them to be brave, to speak truth, to help people who needed help even when it was hard. And he told them that sometimes families are broken and rebuilt stronger, that blood doesn't determine worth, and that the greatest inheritance he could leave them wasn't money. It was the example their mother had set and the values she'd instilled. William sealed the letters and placed them in his safe. Then he went upstairs and checked on both children, watching them sleep peacefully in beds that were truly theirs, in a home where they were truly safe. He thought about the old William Hartley, the ruthless businessman who'd measured success in dollars and deals. That man had been dying in a wheelchair, betrayed and alone, with nothing but money to show for 75 years of life. The new William Hartley, the one a 7-year-old deaf girl had saved, measured success differently. In children's laughter, in recovered health, in justice served, in truth prevailing over lies. Money hadn't saved him, titles hadn't saved him, his own family hadn't saved him. 2 homeless children with nothing but courage and integrity had saved him. And in return, he'd given them what their mother had wanted most: a safe home, a future full of possibilities, and proof that truth still mattered in a world that often rewarded lies. Outside, the Brooklyn night was peaceful. Inside, William Hartley was finally truly at peace. The poison was gone, the betrayers were punished, the children were safe. Sometimes the ending you need isn't the ending you expected, but that doesn't make it any less perfect. The end. Moral of the story: trust should be earned, not assumed, even from family. Children can see truths that adults choose to ignore. Real family is built on love and loyalty, not blood and biology. Courage means speaking up when everyone else stays silent, and sometimes the people who save us are the ones who need saving most. Justice may be delayed, but when truth and courage combine, it cannot be denied. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to support our growth. Your like and comment mean everything to us. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. What was your favorite part of the story? Drop your thoughts below.